Welcome back to the Birdcage podcast. Today I'm joined alongside James Madden. I am Jack Kenna, and we will be previewing Kansas season opener against Howard. James, how are you doing today?
Not too bad, Jack. We were just talking about it before we started. Tomorrow's the big day we've all been waiting for, the first day of the season. So I don't
Yeah.
know how much sleep I'm going to be getting tonight because I'm so fired up, but I'm ready to go for another great season.
I'm pumped up. I'm smiling ear to ear. I am ecstatic. Um, it's going to be a phenomenal basketball season, and you'll be keeping up with it quite heavily. Um, Not many people know this. I didn't know this about you until was what day did we run board? Last Friday, so almost 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah, two weeks ago.
Oh, when we were running board for KU Arkansas, you have an Instagram page called NCAA B Top 25 that is actually pretty popular. I'll let you kind of talk about it a little bit. But yeah, just take us away from there. Tell us whatever you want about it.
Yeah, I started an Instagram page. I don't really talk about it much just because I don't know. It's kind of like awkward to talk about, I guess. But
Yep.
yeah, I started a page about like 6 years ago. I think I was still in middle school and like just covering college basketball because I always thought it was the greatest sport on earth, and I still think that. But I just covering college basketball, and it never really like got popular until during COVID. Once I started like covering college recruiting and
Mhm.
like players getting offers and commitments and whatever. So that's when it really took off. And out of it, I don't know, I've just been able to build like relationships with players, coaches, people in programs, and it's hopefully, been able to build a network for me as I
Oh,
try to, get into a career in not only sports, but hopefully college basketball and just try and build connections. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
mm,
I just, I've been making graphics, trying to get everything set up just so I'm not flustering tomorrow when I have to get the graphics posted for final scores.
yeah.
But it's been a lot of fun these 6 years, and hopefully, I always say, hopefully, this is just the beginning, and I do mean it because I'm hoping to try and have a career in college basketball and sports at one point.
Yeah, it's a pretty epic account, I will say. The
Thanks,
minute I
Jack.
figured out that you were running this, I had to check it out. I've stalked your page. It's a lot of hard work stuff that you've been able
It
to.
is hard work, yeah.
You have over 20,000 followers on this Instagram page, so you were able to kind of grow it quite a bit. I want you to kind of talk about like some of the coolest people that you've been able to come in contact with running this page because um you touched on it. Building relationships is a huge part of the industry. Who are some of the people that you've been able to talk to, ask questions, and kind of learn from?
Yeah, I've met so many great people. Obviously, you have bigger relationships with other people, some people more than others, but I'd say some of like my most famous followers, I guess, are like guys like Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey, Grant Hill, Quincy Acey, a longtime NBA player as well. But then I've also, been able to meet some coaches, head assistant coach at Illinois. Also, just many different players. A player I'm very close with, Chas Kelly. He's at Boston College entering his junior year. And I've been covering him since he was a junior in high school at the Phelps School in rural Pennsylvania. He's a guy I'm very close with. Another
Mhm.
guy I just talked to like last week, Kingston Walker. He's about to start his freshman season at the University of North Alabama.
Mhm.
But there's a bunch of different, Division One players that I've tried to help. There's another player, he's from Nigeria, and I've been trying to help him get recruited, and very athletic. And it's hard to get noticed when you're in Nigeria,
Yeah.
obviously. But he's been trying his best, you know, emailing coaches on Twin, messaging them on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been able to meet and connect with a lot of people, and it's just been great. Obviously, I'm grateful for everything, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't really consider it. It is very hard work, like you said, but it's fun work. Like I'm willing to put
Exactly.
in effort. Like I was talking with one of my buddies this afternoon. We were talking about the season starting tomorrow, and he
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, you're gonna have 20 hours of screen time," and it was kind of an exaggeration. But last year on Super Saturday, when all the conference championships were on, I had 18 hours of screen time,
Yeah,
and
and
something that I thought
that's
would
how it
fry,
is.
and I thought it was frying my brain, but it was 18 hours that were worth it. And my dad and my mom think I'm a psycho sometimes when you walk in and I have, Longwood basketball on,
Yup.
but it's the beauty of the sport and I love it. So
I love that you're able to do it. You touched on it. It's hard work, but it's fun work. It's work. I mean, I'm sitting here. I kind of started my own like podcast, YouTube, and it's been work. I've created graphics. which I'm kind of finally now starting to kind of put up. It took me a little bit to kind of figure out Photoshop a little bit. Um, and then I just get to sit with a bunch of cool people and talk ball. And it's one of those things
Nothing
where,
better.
yeah, it's hard work, but it's fun work. So it's the hours that I don't mind putting into it. Um, but that's going to take us right to our preview. I know we're super excited to have you riding for the Kansan, working at Kansas or for the UDK and then KJ. So we'll have a lot of fun things, I'm sure, this year and then even in the future for you because you're a freshman. You're a year younger than me. So you're kind of the next wave of UDK members, Kansan members. So it's gonna be
The
kind of
new
fun to
generation.
watch. Yeah, you are the new generation. But we'll kind of break into it. Obviously KU's first game is against Howard. And the second, um, it's called the McLendon Classic, where Kansas basketball will play um I am blanking.
An HBCU.
An HBCU, yes, correct. Um, for like their first game, I know was NC Central last year. So this is it's gonna be a game because Howard's good.
Yeah, I mean, Howard is, a lot of people will sleep on. I mean, KU, I mean, in theory, should win pretty handily.
Probably by
But a lot
30, hopefully.
but a lot of people do sleep on, mid majors, especially Howard. I mean, they play in the MEAC, which, no shade to the MEAC, isn't the most, competitive conference. I mean, in their own right, they are competitive, but when you compare them with other mid majors around the country, maybe not so much. But
Yeah.
Howard's looking for a little bit of a vengeance. They 2 years ago in the 2023 tournament, they were drawn against Kansas in the first round. Kansas, obviously a 1-16, handled it pretty well. They think they won by 40, but Howard's
Yep.
no slouch of a team. And we talked about it before we started. Bryce Harris was just named the MEAC preseason player of the year. And he's an experienced player and they have an experienced roster. And
Yeah.
another guy I'm looking forward to watching just because I saw him play a lot when his high school days. He's from the Portland, Maine area. Is Dom Campbell. He's like a super athletic big man, 6'8",
Mhm.
6'9". He began his career at Notre Dame and then
Yeah.
played high school ball in New Hampshire at Phillips Exeter, one of, I think, academically the best high school in America. So not only can he get it done on the
Impressive.
court, he gets it done in the classroom. And I've been watching him since his junior year at his prep days at the Middlesex Magic in northern Massachusetts. So I'm looking forward to now seeing him at Allen Fieldhouse and kind of comparing the two. I watched him at the Dana Barros Basketball Club. Now
This
I'll
is
be seeing him at
crazy.
Allen Fieldhouse.
This is crazy. That you've been able to do something super cool. Build your own identity in the college basketball world that you're able to have relationships and know people like Dom Campbell, who for most journalists, most people would definitely go under the radar. But yeah, it'll be exciting. They also have a guard returning with Bryce Harris and Marcus Dockery, who you were kind of talking about. You mentioned his name before we even started the podcast. So this Howard team has a lot of names. Um, and the one thing I will say about mid majors is it's mid majors, and also it just involves kind of every smaller team. The transfer portal helps out a ton. Now these mid majors have dudes who can actually play basketball at a high level. So it's going to be a super exciting game for the first game of the year. And definitely a game that's going to be a little more competitive than I think a lot of people are thinking.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned, Marcus Dockery, he was a guy that was product of that transfer portal earlier in his career. I believe he started his career at Maryland and then now at Howard. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it can help teams, but I think it can also hurt teams because
Yeah.
you see teams completely, whether if a coach leaves or if a coach stays, guys just hit the portal because they're going to go get more playing time if they drop down a level, or in the sense that a mid-major guy will leave and get the same amount of playing time, but at a higher level. And
Yep.
like you said, the transfer portal nowadays it's running rampant in college sports. I mean,
It really is.
I personally don't have a problem with it like other people do because coaches are allowed to leave whenever they want. And I don't see why players should be limited to because at the end of the day, as bad as it sounds, coaches lie to players sometimes, and situations don't work out. So it's human nature, but I don't have a problem personally with the transfer portal as much as other people do. I do
Yeah.
think it is more it is bigger in college sports than I think the NCAA had hoped. But for
Mm.
teams like Howard, they got a guy like Marcus Dockery who I'm sure will contribute tomorrow, but he'll contribute all season, and he has the past couple seasons And
Yeah.
that's why they've been able to make the NCAA tournament the past 2 years.
Yeah, it reminds me of a quote that Tad Boyle told me during Big 12 Media Day. I asked him kind of about the transfer portal and if it's easier to build a roster now than it was when he started coaching. Back in 2006, I think it was his very first year as a head coach. But he said it's way easier to build a roster, but it's harder to build a program. And I think that kind of touches on both things that we were talking about. Easy to build a roster now. You can go out and grab guys, but it is kind of hard to build that program, keep everybody motivated. Not really motivated is the word, but like keep the traditions alive, keep everyone focused and stuff. So I think you're right. You hit it. It's a blessing and a curse at some points.
Yeah, and I was talking about this, I think last week, where KU got really lucky. Not lucky, because, but they got very fortunate that they had two guys that will likely be in the starting rotation, DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams, who have been able to stay at KU and build kind of the foundation of a program.
Yep.
While, obviously anyone at KU knows the transfer portal class they brought in this year. But no matter the transfers, you'll always find, a little bit, it's just new, so you never really know how it's going to go. But having two guys that have been here since their freshman years, like Harris and Adams, I think is important to, you said, Tad Boyle told you, building a program, because these guys can come in, but they can give them a sense of what KU's about, what Bill Self's about. Because I saw a funny quote, I forget what player it was, but they asked him, how is Bill Self now that you're a freshman playing for him? He said, it's not the same Bill Self I met on my visit. Because once you start playing on the team, it's a different Bill Self. That Bill Self wants to win.
Yeah, they're
So
not going to charm you.
no, on the
They're
visit
going to
they
shoot it
will.
to you straight.
On the visit they will. But once you start summer camp, it's no. There's no more fun.
The minute your name is signed on the dotted line, it's a different person.
But yeah, I think KU got very fortunate having two guys that have stayed for a very long time,
Mhm.
and not like there's many upgrades from KU,
Yeah.
in college basketball. But those are two guys that could play anywhere in the country, and they have chose KU and they've stayed at KU.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see the retention. I know KU has also lost its fair share of transfers just because a lot of guys just don't get the PT and they want to play ball. But they are able to keep guys around. I think of two guys in particular, Jamari McDowell and Elmarco Jackson, two freshmen last year who really didn't play very much. Elmarco started the year in the starting five and then kind of got benched for Johnny Furphy and then just was getting minutes but kind of restricted minutes at points. We just didn't know when he would necessarily touch the floor or not. So it's nice to see that even guys like that just want to be part of a winning program and a winning culture. So it's exciting. Let's. Oh, you were gonna say something. Sorry, I
I was
don't
just
want to
gonna
cut you
say it
off.
was a shame what happened to El Marco this season with the
Yeah,
knee injury too.
I think
It's
I think he was set out to have an amazing year.
I think so too. He was having a very good end of last season.
Yep, he's
Obviously,
kind of started to figure it out.
yeah, but it was a shame when I found out. I was kind of, really bummed. Not only for him as like a kid, because it's a 19-year-old kid, you want to see him keep playing basketball, but also as a KU student, not being able to see him after he made some really great improvements last season.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting start to the year, and I'm excited for tomorrow because we'll finally get to see what this Kansas team's made out of. One thing in particular, we should, fingers crossed, have a healthy lineup, healthy rotation for tomorrow. I'm expecting a lot of guys to touch the floor, especially in the first game. I know our second game is against UNC, so this rotation is going to look mighty different on Friday. But right now, I'm expecting a lot of guys to touch the floor. I'm excited to see Shaquille Moore's first game in a Kansas jersey. I'm excited to see Hunter Dickinson back for his 18th year of college basketball. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and I'm happy to see Shaquille Moore and Hunter Dickinson both healthy. I mean, I saw them,
Mhm.
both of them, like a couple weeks back. They both had in the parking lot outside the stadium. They both had walking boots and were a little banged up. Obviously, I think Coach Self touched on it in his many media availabilities, but he talked about how he knew both of them, especially Hunter wasn't going to be serious. He'll be ready to go opening night. And like you said, I mean, tomorrow will be a little different just because in theory, KU will hopefully get out in front pretty early. So you'll mess around with different lineups, different rotations, different combinations. But come Friday, that's when the real season starts. Yeah, Bill Self will tell you the real season starts tomorrow because you got to go and play every team like they're the North Carolinas of the world. But seeing a top 10 team like North Carolina in the first week of the season is good for KU, but it's also good for college basketball because no shade to Howard, but people would rather watch a North Carolina Kansas matchup than a KU Howard matchup.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it'll be very different. I'm looking forward to see Rylan Griffin out there. He was banged up through camp and he missed the Arkansas scrimmage. But I'm looking forward to this new KU roster and this new, KU in the new, like we talked about, in the new day and age of the transfer portal. KU used it to their advantage, and I think the sky's the limit this year.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see all the transfers come in, play, all the freshmen. I'm excited to see Passmore and Flory their first game, their first big game in Allen Fieldhouse. But let's talk about what you hope to see from this KU team. I'm gonna kind of start us off. I really hope to see AJ Storr find his footing. He's kind of struggled so far this year, and I kind of want your input on that because I think he's going to be a very important piece come March.
Yeah, AJ Storr, I mean, he's been able to, as long as I've ever watched him play, his number one thing is he's always been able to score. AJ Storr, he scores. I guess you can make a rhyme out of it, but but no, ever since his high school days, he's been a scorer, like a scorer first guard. He's
Yeah,
super athletic. He plays, when he's going down the lane, he has a head of full steam. He's the type of guy you don't he's because he's solid too.
he's a
He's
big
what,
guy.
six
Yeah,
foot four, he's solid. So he's a guy you might look out for going down the lane, and played at St. John's. He could score there. Then he went to Wisconsin, where he was a big part of a very good Wisconsin team that got knocked out in the first round against JMU last year. But I think he obviously, like you said, has struggled in preseason. I think his shot was a little off when they took the trip to Fayetteville. But it's his first game out there. I mean, I don't get concerned usually until we're about a month in the season because it's a new offense, new culture, a new home. But I'm not too worried about his scoring just because he's always been a guy that's been able to score. And I think, everyone at KU will tell you how exciting him being on KU is because he's the type of guy who's very hard to game plan for because he can knock down the three ball. Then once he starts hitting that, you overcommit, and then he gets down the lane with his full head of steam. He's a good passer, so pair him up with Hunter Dickinson. That will create many
yep,
problems in a game planning nightmare for opposing teams. So AJ Storr, I'm super excited to see. And like I said, I'm not too concerned about his scoring yet, just because it's what he does, and that's his calling card.
yep,
But I'm excited to see him. Like obviously they've had the Washburn game and the Arkansas game, but tomorrow's the first official game. I'm
yeah,
excited to see him out there for KU.
yeah. I'm also excited to see Hunter Dickinson's first game this season, preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. So I am excited to kind of watch him and see what are your expectations for Dickinson tomorrow and then throughout the season.
Well, Dickinson, he's a interesting player just because he deals with a lot of negativity surrounding him in college
Yeah.
basketball. He's a guy like when he was at Michigan, people like to get on him. Now that he's at KU, people are still getting on him because those are two.
He's almost easier to hate in the eye of a normal college basketball fan because of the antics. I feel like he's kind of a very I'm here guys, look at me type of player. So I feel like a lot of college basketball fans love to kind of poke fun at Hunter.
I'll tell you what, Hunter Dickinson does not lack confidence.
No, he doesn't.
But no, I'm excited to see Hunter. This is his second year at KU. He had a great career at Michigan. And I think the number one thing I noticed last year that I was impressed with is towards the end of the season, they battled injuries, but Hunter Dickinson was always out there, and then he got hurt towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
But his shot came along really well. Like his mid range was always pretty solid and pretty, he was always comfortable at the mid range. But then he extended it to the 3-point line in a season where they really struggled to shoot the 3-point ball.
Yep.
So Dickinson, I think if he's able to shoot the three, Kansas is very dangerous because they'll be at that point. I mean, I don't know if KJ will shoot that well, but they can run lineups without KJ where they kind of run a similar style to the Celtics, where all
Mhm.
five guys are able to shoot the three and on the outside perimeter, but also give them the option of putting Hunter Dickinson on the block, putting him in isolation one-on-one. And chances are he's not facing someone that's 7'2", 260. So he'll definitely have the size advantage. And, like I said, Hunter Dickinson, if he's able to knock down the 3-point shot, I think KU is going to be a lot of trouble for some teams this year.
Yeah. You're gonna have to tell me what's going on behind you. I think the Colts just returned a fumble for a touchdown.
You would be
Um,
correct with that, Jack. That was
I'm
Kenny
sorry.
Moore.
I'm not kidding you, James. I saw the entire play behind your head and I was infatuated.
Yep. So 10:56 left in the second, and Kenny Moore just returned a fumble for a touchdown. 7-0 Colts.
That's electric. That is hilarious.
I
That
know
is
somewhere Caden
hilarious.
Lecce's pissed.
Caden Lecce. We might have to get Caden Lecce on the podcast just to talk about the Vikings.
He'll
Uh,
talk about that for days.
oh, surely he will. It's going to be Shaquille Moore's first game as a KU player. He has not played. He's been injured all kind of off season. I'm not gonna lie to you, Diggy Coit kind of shocked me when he kind of stepped foot in Allen Fieldhouse and then just decided to go off for 19 points in our exhibition game. I did not expect that from Diggy Coit. Do you think Shaquille Moore can do something similar to him, or do you think, especially since season's actually kind of coming along, he's gonna actually have to play a role?
I think Shaquille Moore can do that, but I just think they're such different players.
Yep.
Like Shaquille, I think will be out there more so for his defense. Like Shaquille's a great on-ball defender, and he always has been ever since like those Mississippi State teams. They were one of those teams that like they had Josh Hubbard, but then other than that couldn't score, but they would lock you up defensively. And that's what Shaquille will bring. And I think he embraces the little like the he's a guy that'll dive on the floor for a loose ball. He'll take a charge. He'll guard you. He'll guard your best player, your best guard one on one, on an island. So he'll be a great defender. And
Mhm.
but I do think Diggy will carry more so of like the scoring bench role just because he's smaller. Like he's not as good of a defender, but he can also score. And we
Yeah.
saw that against Washburn. And I think he's only 5'11", but he has, he doesn't play like he's 5'11".
Yeah.
So
No.
offensively, I think Diggy will be, play more offensive roles. But I do think not David Coy. Wow, we'll think Shaquille Moore, will play a more defensive role coming off the bench because of how good he is at on ball defending.
Alrighty. I want to talk about the rotation. We saw Diggy Coit play over Zeke Mayo against, in the exhibition against Washburn. But what do you think will happen tomorrow? What do you think the starting five is?
Yeah, I will say that did surprise me a little bit. I think, but I'm not Bill Self, so I'm not going to question his rotations. But I think obviously there's three givens. It's going to be obviously DeJuan Harris at the one, I guess you could say, and then KJ and Hunter Dickinson at the 4 and 5, and then this is where it gets a little interesting. Then you have AJ Storr. I'm sure AJ Storr will start at the 2, and then you have like, will it be Zeke Mayo? Will it be Rylan Griffin? Will it be, whoever? I think if I were making the rotation, I would start Rylan Griffin just because, I mean, the only problem with this rotation, you're going a little small, and I might be forgetting
Yeah.
somebody, but I think Rylan Griffin, just because he's such a good 3-point shooter,
Nope.
and I think 3 pointers, especially in today's era of basketball, are so important. And if you can get a guy like Rylan Griffin hot at the beginning of the game, not only will that shape you for the rest of the game, but it also, every coach will tell you you want to start off fast and you want to start off strong. And Rylan Griffin's ability to light it up from deep gives you that opportunity. So, I mean,
100%.
if I were out there coaching, and thank God I'm not because I don't know how well we do, but I would go with Harris, Storr, Griffin, Adams, and Dickinson.
Yeah. I like where your head's at. I'm going to switch it up. I do think Zeke Mayo kind of gets the start over Griffin in this first game. However, I really do think between Griffin, Storr, Mayo, it really will just be A, game dependent, and two, performance dependent. Who's actually playing, who's struggling right now. I feel like that's how the lineups are going to be a lot of the time with DeJuan, KJ, and then Hunter, like kind of solidified starting spots. But I like that because it shows that KU actually has options on the bench. We have a bench unit this year, something I don't think we had last year. So I'm excited to kind of see the bench guys more than I am the starters in this first game.
Yeah, and I think another thing that I remember, I forget what coach it was, but a coach said it's not about who starts, it's about who finishes.
Yep.
And the beauty of, like you said, this KU team is there's like 8 guys that can finish a game for you, and you're comfortable with them being out there.
Yeah.
So whether it's injuries, foul trouble, someone's having an off night, they're so deep. And last year they weren't deep, and coupled with some injuries, Kevin McCullough was hurt,
Mhm.
Dickinson got hurt. That's why last season, and it's funny to say it was a down year because they were a 4 seed, and many
Yeah.
teams called that a success, but not at KU. And Coach Bill Self will be the first one to tell you it was a down year.
Yeah.
So, but that's the beauty of the team is, it's like I said, it's not really about who starts, it's about who finishes. And they
Mhm.
have like eight, 9 guys that can be out there, and you're comfortable with them being on the floor in a game against like an Iowa State or Houston on the road, you say, well, these guys deserve to be out there. And
Yeah,
last season, there were a lot of question marks as to how many guys feel
exactly.
comfortable with being out there in the final 3 minutes of a game.
100%. Before we let you go, I need a national championship prediction here.
Oh man.
What team do you think? It's before the season starts. We will clarify. It is November 3rd. It is the eve of college basketball kickoff. Who is the national championship winner?
Oh man. So see, I want to say KU just because I'm biased, I guess, and I
Yep.
go to school here and I wake up every morning and see the Allen Fieldhouse outside my window.
Yeah.
But I do, and as I don't like want to because they're another Big 12 team, but I love Iowa State's team.
Yeah.
And
You were kind of
I
talking
was
about that on the board. We were
I
running board.
really love Iowa State. And I know you like TJ Otzelberger because he's a Creighton guy,
I do. He is a Creighton guy.
but I love Iowa State's team. I think they just play they played Creighton in an exhibition, didn't
They
they?
did. Yeah. Closed door.
Yeah.
Everyone knew it happened. Just nobody was there.
The secret scrimmage where the entire box scores leaked and everything.
Yep. I would love to be invited to a secret scrimmage at some point. But yeah, it that did happen. Iowa State supposedly won by one, but it's gonna be exciting because I think they're a pretty darn good team.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go Iowa State. I just like what they've built there, and they were a very good team last year. They lost in the Sweet 16, but they returned everyone, and I just think I'm historically really bad at picking this. Like I always have terrible brackets, and I like not to brag, but I watch more college basketball than the average American,
You watch
and
more college basketball than probably 90% of Americans. This
I'm
is
always
this is
below
this is
average
all
on
yeah,
this.
this is awesome to hear.
But yeah, it's for all my luck, Iowa State will get bounced in the first round now. But I'm gonna go on record and say Iowa State right now.
There you go. Love to hear it. Love to see it. Well, thank you for coming on the pod today.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
I'm going to link your Twitter or your X now, and then your Instagram account for your basketball Instagram account in below in the description. So make sure you guys check out James on X and Instagram. James, thank you for coming on the pod today.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate having me. And I could talk ball and with another fan of ball. I don't know that I dug myself into a hole there, but
Yeah. Well,
no, it was a lot of fun. Thanks, Jack.
of course, of course. We'll definitely have to have you on more throughout the season. I know it's going to get pretty chaotic, so we'll definitely find more times for you to come on. But I appreciate you being on the pod today, the eve before college basketball season. Oh, I need to